Good afternoon, Patriots. This is Barb with Project 2 by 2. We share the truth with you because you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. That is John 8:32. Happy Independence Day, Patriots. Greatest day, the greatest year to be alive and to celebrate Independence Day, because we are truly getting more and more free. We are restoring America because God is on our side and President Trump is leading the way. Oh, what a great day to be alive, isn't it? Don't you just keep thanking the Lord for everything that's happening here? I am. Okay, here we go. Now, you are looking at a whole new site here. It's News with Views. And why are we looking at News with Views? Well, because NeonRevolt.com, his site has been down for the whole day. It's been down. This poor guy is going through all kinds of issues with his site. He has had issues with his shop, his site. He's had to change site, the server, internal stuff. Reddit suspended him for 3 days, what have you. He's just been going through everything. So we have to pray for him, because we know this is all spiritual. It's a spiritual battle. If you don't know it's a spiritual battle, you'll never get through it, because you're going to be discouraged all the way through. So it's a spiritual battle. God is on our side, so he defeated the enemy at the cross. We just have to walk in the victory, put on the belt of truth so you know who you are, that we are more than conquerors. We have to know this, and we have to pray for what's going on here, because God is raising Neon up. There's no doubt about it. And the enemy is getting more and more terrified of the truth that he brings. I'm telling you, that's the truth. So, one of my fabulous subscribers says, Barb, you got to read this article. This is by Ms. Smallback. You have to read it. Smallback. You have to read it. It's fabulous. So I said, okay, Shirley H., my fabulous subscriber, I will. And I did, and she was right. It is absolutely a fabulous article. Now, the article starts out with the lyrics from, you remember the song American Pie. It came out in 1971. It was written by Don McLean. It's an 8-minute song. And he says, Don McLean said, it was hard for me to get this out because of the fact that it was 8 minutes long. Nobody wanted to put it out there. But when it did hit in the 70s, it was just a phenomenal song. It's always been the most phenomenal song out there. I mean, it's just a classic that is just head and shoulders above every other even classic out there. It's like a Stairway to Heaven song. It's one of those songs that you just, they're in their own plane. Well, that's American Pie. If you haven't heard it, you got to go, just type it in, American Pie, Google it, and play it. And you'll remember. If you don't, if you've never heard it, you just love it. It's just a fabulous song. Well, the whole song is really about music and the music dying. And that's the metaphor for America, that McLean is using this metaphor of music dying and equating that with America dying. Well, what was happening? He was coming out of, it was written in 71, we were coming out of the 60s. The most rebellious, hedonistic generation of all time. I mean, it just was. There was free love and free this and free everything, and do what you want and have sex in public and do it at Woodstock and whatever, and take all kinds of drugs and do whatever you wanted to do. And we had the Vietnam War going on. We had everything going on. The Cold War with Russia and what have you. It was a very, very difficult time. So he's looking at this, McLean, and he's saying, and let me just sum this up for you. This is just the first half that I'm going to sum up for you. And then this writer, Ms. Smallback, gets into talking about Q. I'm going to read that one straight through. But the first half here is about McLean, and he said in an interview in 2015, basically in American Pie, things are heading in the wrong direction, says McLean, who's 69. It is becoming less ideal, less idyllic. I don't know whether you consider that right, wrong, or right, but it is a morally song. It is a morality song in a sense. I was around in 1970, and now I'm around in 2015. There's no poetry and very little romance in anything anymore. So it is really like the last phase of American Pie, which is basically, the day the music died kind of thing. So now she's going to get into Q. So talking about him, talking about the 60s, talking about that generation, basically. Now she's going to talk about Q. Before she talks about Q, you need to hear this. The Israelites were wandering the desert it took them 40 years. They were wandering around in the desert. They were in bondage in Egypt, and Moses led them out through God's grace. It would have taken them 7 to 12 days to get to the promised land. That was it. 7 to 12 days, folks. They did get to the border of the promised land. When they got to the border, after 7 to 12 days, they get to the border of the promised land. They're looking at the enemy. They're looking at Jericho, basically, which was the first camp, the first spot they were looking at. And they said, okay, let's send out spies to go check out that land. So they sent out 12 spies. 12. And the 12 came back, and 10 of them says, whoa, those that enemy, man. They're huge, and we are grasshoppers in their sight. We can't defeat them. That's crazy. I mean, they'll just demolish us. We're nothing. Look at us. We're nothing. We don't have anything. We're nothing. Now, mind you, God just delivered them. He opened the Red Sea for them. They passed through the Red Sea. Then the Red Sea closed up on the enemy behind them. They have been sustained. Their food, their clothing, nothing has worn out with them. Mind you, it's only 7 to 12 days. And what most people don't know is when all of those people that were released from Egypt, there was none of them feeble among them. Not a one. They weren't coming out in their walkers and their wheelchairs and things like that. All decrepit and old. They weren't. They were all restored. That was also the grace of God. Okay, so they're coming out. They're fresh. They're revived and whatever. No, we're grasshoppers. Well, because they have that slave mentality. That's what they came out of, Egypt. But it's easy to come out of Egypt, relatively speaking. But it's very difficult to get Egypt to come out of you. That mentality, that stronghold. So they go up to the 10 spies says, no, we can't make it. Well, 2 of the spies, Joshua and Caleb, said, what are you kidding? Of course we can defeat them. We got God. God is for you. Who could be against you? We got him. There's no problem here. Let's go. Let's do it. Come on. Well, no, they took the advice of the 10 spies, those weak spies. They went back out into the desert, and they went around the same old mountain for 40 years. Well, what was God doing for 40 years? He wiped out that generation is what he did. He didn't wipe them out. He waited until they all died. They all died. That whole entire generation with that negative thinking and that rebellion, they were whiners. They complained about everything, and they all died. There were only 2 people left from that generation, and that was Joshua and Caleb. That was it. So 40 years, they're wiped out. That generation wiped out. Now, remind you, the whole new generation was coming up behind them. But when they got to the promised land, after the 40 years, where did they go first? Jericho. It was the first stop. Several of them, spies, went into Jericho, and they're spying the place out. Well, who did they run into? Rahab the prostitute. And when she finds out that they're Israelites, she said, whoa, you guys you're those people, those Israelites. You guys are the ones that have that God. They're like, what are you talking about here? Oh yeah, you guys have that God. He opened the whole Red Sea for you, and then he closed it on all of those people, that enemy that was following you, and he sustained you, and he kept you in all those years. Yeah, well, we heard about your God, and you know that our hearts waxed in fear because of you and your God. And that's why she hid them. She hid those spies because she was terrified of them. And their people, that in Jericho, the enemy of the Israelites, were terrified of the Jews, the Israelites. They were terrified of them. So are you getting this? So when the 40 years ago, they could have easily handled the enemy because the enemy was absolutely terrified because they heard of all the good deeds their God did. But because they did not know who they were, they retreated and they ran back to the desert for 40 years. Oh, that's such a profound lesson. The belt of truth. Know who you are in Jesus Christ. Know who you are. He already defeated the enemy. He was defeated at the cross, period. All we're doing, folks, is we're walking out that victory that Jesus already gave us. Is that awesome or what? It is awesome. Why am I bringing this up? Because it's 40 years after American Pie, people. That's why I'm bringing it up, because 40 years ago, with all of that garbage going on, everything, we are now this new generation. We are now right there at the promised land. And we know through God's grace, we are going to take the enemy. We know it. Because what did God do? He said, okay, I'm going to let you just let that whole generation of unbelief and rebellion and all of that immorality, and just going to let it die off. And we're that new generation, folks. And that's where we're at right here in this wonderful article by Miss Smallback. Enter Q. Okay? So let's just read it. Oh, I just love this. Okay. You have to find a medium that can't be controlled by the voices that have controlled the narrative, but can still reach a large portion of people. You have to find a venue that will reach the patriots longing for justice, tired of the corruption, awake enough to see glimmers of light, however faint. You need a forum to help those not only ready to engage in patriotic duty, but also those looking for understanding and answers. Really, you need people awake that are patriots, that know what America is supposed to be, recognize dangers to it, and are willing to engage in the battle to set it aright. She continues, social media is compromised. Mainstream media is a propaganda tool for a subversive agenda. So you go to a message board that's designed specifically against the infringement of free speech, safeguarding against surveillance, and with, of course, a category specific to you, politics. Then you put a feeler out there to see the interest and the response. You drop clues. You ask questions. Not everyone on the board is awake. Not everyone on the board is friendly. It doesn't matter. You know the masses of your nation don't understand what's going on behind the scenes. You know the narrative has been in play so long it's accepted as reality. You can't overthrow the shadow players that have been usurping America without American people and keep America intact. The American people have to understand the real battle and engage for the sake of what is good and right. You don't have a regime change. You want a republic restored to the people. So the people have to be a part of it. So, says Miss Smallback, you interact with the people. You try to help them see what's going on beyond what they can see. You give them clues and you ask them questions. Revelation is only revelation when it is discovered. We don't sacrifice for something we don't understand. President Trump communicates with the American people through Twitter because, number one, his message can come without filters, and two, there's a public record. You can't twist words you can see with your own eyes. Though the media has ridiculed him, he had a plan for unmolested communication with the American people, and he implemented it. She continues, as Q gained the Patriots' attention on 8chan, the Patriots began talking. Look at what it did. You could be a patriot in a hostile geographical environment, but because of the internet, you could connect with fellow patriots particularly anywhere. And they are everywhere, all over the world. People started talking to one another. They started sharing information. People who were awake longer were able to point newbies to research sites, books, information, speakers, online videos, and commentaries. Now, 8chan conversations made their way to Facebook groups, Twitter threads, blog pages, etc. Internet sleuths and researchers opened YouTube channels and blog sites to break open Q posts. Patriots of every age, male and female, every race, religion or no religion, every geography in America, any educational levels, almost every imaginable career field was represented and began to rally around a single cause: American liberty and the restoration of the rule of law in America. It got even bigger. People around the world tired of oppression and the behind-the-scenes oligarchy and needless wars and unjust governing bodies got involved. They sensed that if America could break free from these clutches, maybe there was a chance where they live. It was a brilliant plan to unite patriots and ignite patriotism. Q masterfully laid out crumbs or clues on current events. Those following would take those clues and dig for understanding. This was critical because it taught patriots to own their convictions, to see behind the curtain, and to know where or how to look. People who had never met were exchanging ideas and information for the sake of understanding and unity in an otherwise divided nation. She continues, which brings us today. A few days ago, Time magazine named Q one of the 25 most influential people on the internet. The walk-away movement is in the tens of thousands of people who have left the Democrat Party. There is an awakening in this nation of patriots intent on restoring the republic to its general intent outlined in the Declaration of Independence, underscored in the Bill of Rights. It's not about Republican or Democrat. It's about being American. I just can't say it better than Neon Revolt, she says. And this is Neon. This was never meant to stay online. The goal has always been disclosure to the general public and the entire world. The only reason Q came to the Chans in the first place, because despite them full of raucous, rude, and rowdy edgelords, is that it was the one last place in the world where you could truly speak freely. The reality is, 2 message boards full of rejects and losers stood between chaos and extinction because they refused to be lied to. They refused to be gaslit. They refused to be manipulated, and no one could ever tell them to shut up. Q helped Trump and team circumvent MSM's channels of control, sidestep the 4 a.m. Mockingbird hit pieces, broadcast around all the censored online channels, and speak directly to us, we the people. And Neon continues, and so we've built and we've grown and we've red-pilled many along the way, but now everyone gets to know. whether they want to or not. It must happen, because if it doesn't, nothing changes. You are here, and it doesn't matter how you got here, because you have a role to play in all of this. You are called to be a pillar. You are there to support those around you, those who do not yet know, and help them process everything. In a sense, we're the lucky ones. We've had 8 months to learn and process all this information. And then Miss Smallback continues. Now, we take this information however much we've gleaned, however much we've understood, and we apply it for the sake of our nation and our future. The evils being perpetrated on the American people are about to be aired to the public. People who are blind will not see. People who are ignorant will not understand. But if we understand, and if we can see, we have a responsibility to act. The Q phenomenon was simply to unite the patriots, to restore the Republic of the United States back to we the people by exposing the deeds done in the dark that were dismantling our republic in order to remove the deception from the public at large. Q and the patriots represented our calling upon those who understand to help those who do not. The team of patriots headed by names most of us never heard of, embodied in Q and more, partnered with a businessman unconnected to the establishment to bring the exposure needed to free our nation from the subversive agenda to dismantle America and reconstruct it for the benefit of a handful of billionaires intent on ruling the world. The time is upon us to apply the knowledge we have for the liberty of our nation. Is it coincidental that Don McLean debuted American Pie at Temple University as a guest for Laura Nyro? Is it a coincidence that Laura Nyro penned Save the Country with lyrics of "Come on, people, sons and mothers, keep the dream of the two young brothers, John and Robert Kennedy. I got fury in my soul. Fury's gonna take me to the glory goal. In my mind, I can't study war no more. Save the people, save the children, save the country." Could McLean have been prophetic in his lyrics of a slow-dying America? And if so, what does that say about his unpublished last verse, the one that never made it to the song? If the music died, the spirit of America, is it possible it can be reborn here and now? And here is the last verse. "And there I stood alone and afraid. I dropped to my knees, and there I prayed. And I promised him everything I could give, if only he would make the music live. And he promised it would live once more. But this time, one would equal 4. And in 5 years, 4 had come to mourn, and the music was reborn." Wow. That's fabulous. Again, news with views. And it was written by Miss Smallback, Wednesday, July 4th. Is that, oh, she wrote it on the 3rd, I'm sorry. July 3rd, wrote it yesterday. Was that fabulous? Thank you, Shirley H. And thank you all for listening. I think you had to hear that because I know I had to hear it. And I'm telling you something, folks. The only way that we're ever going to get through this is if we have hope. Not the hope that Obama, that criminal, was talking about. Real hope, God's hope. And faith is a substance of things hoped for. So faith is no good unless you have hope. And having hope is just having that image of what is good. Knowing, you just know that it's going to be okay, that it's going to work out, that things are good, that it's turning around, that we're getting it back, that yes, we're going to make this happen. All of us are going to make this happen. Why? Because God is on our side, and God is not finished with America. He is restoring America. If you don't know that, you are going to be completely depressed all of your life. And it is not an easy thing to be positive. It is not an easy thing at all. Because the battle is always in the mind, and there is always a war going on, and you are always fighting something, whether you're fighting the negative comments that are coming from below telling you that you're not doing a good job, or you need to change this, or you got to do this, or, I'm unsubscribing, or you're fighting your issues with your servers, or people banning you, or this or that, whatever. You are always going to fight the good fight of faith. But there is only one person in your life, in my life, that we will ever answer for, and that is Jesus Christ. That is it. So you can give me comments all day long or whatever, and I take it in because that is what Jesus told me to do. The meek inherit the earth, and the meek means that you have to be teachable. But let me tell you that the ultimate person who judges my life is Jesus Christ, and I work for him. It is about him. It is praying before I get on here and talk to you. It is researching and praying before I get on here and talk to you. It is about him in my life. Period. End of the conversation. And I know that Jesus Christ is restoring America. I know it. If you want to believe otherwise, that is your choice, but you will never be happy if you are going to be that negative. You will never be happy. The best way that we're going to get through this battle together is when we do it together and we unite together. Is when, like Shirley H. and people like her and other people that join in and are constantly saying, check this out, let's look here, let's look there. Then we're united, and we are going to do something, and we're going to do something big, and we are going to change this whole thing around, which we have already done. And anybody who cannot see that it's already turned around, I'm sorry for you. But that's how we are going to work together. That's how we are going to accomplish our goal. We're going to do it with hope. We're going to do it with love. We're going to do it with unity. And we are only going to do it with God. Period. End of the conversation. All this stuff that's being exposed right now, have you ever wondered why it wasn't exposed decades ago? Why was it exposed 2 years ago when President Trump entered the scene? Because that is when Jesus decided it is time. And that is what happened. He said, it is time. I am going to expose everything. And that's what he did. He pulled back the curtain. He pulled back the curtain and said, it is time. Nobody else did. And I love President Trump. You know how I feel about President Trump. Love him. In fact, if you comment negatively about him, I'm sorry, but you're gone. I'm done with you. That's how I feel. I know. But that's how I feel. I know that he is God's anointed, period. He's a King David to me. And that doesn't mean he doesn't make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Who doesn't make mistakes? Of course we make mistakes. But there's a loyalty that has to be there. That has to go beyond what we see. That has to trust. And we don't trust in people. No, we never trust in people. But we trust in God. And we know that God works through people. So is it time on this great Independence Day 2018? Isn't it time we make that decision, each and every one of us, that says, I am going to go out there, I am going to speak the truth, I am going to do it with wisdom, and I am going to be fearless in doing it. Because it's about America, it's about God, it's about family, it's about America. It's about restoration, it's about the truth. And isn't it about time that we stood up and we took back what we let go? Let's take it back. Well, okay. Thank you, Ms. Smallback. You did a fabulous job, and boy, did you just give me a lot more passion here. Thank you, Shirley. Again, Shirley H. Everybody, just enjoy today. But it's more than enjoying today. Appreciate. Be thankful every single day. That's what keeps you hopeful, is just thanking God every single day. Be thankful in everything. Be thankful in everything. And your life will never be the same. I promise you that. Because God promises us that. Okay. We share the truth with you because you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. That is John 8:32. You people be blessed today.